The S&P 500 had a higher high and higher low today, up 0.58%, closing at 5663.94. The gamma exposure structure continues to be positively skewed as the largest GEX concentration is at the 6,000 strike. We've been seeing this 6,000 strike continuing to build over the past week or two, basically after gamma exposure flipped positive somewhere around here at the end of April. If you've been watching our videos, you know we've been tracking this from a historical perspective. Gamma exposure has basically been positive since the end of April. We were essentially in negative gamma exposure territory going all the way back to mid-February after the market rejected off of its highs. On our chart, we're looking at daily candlesticks. The 50-day EMA is sitting at 55.8465. So we've been hovering above this crucial support now going on 6 trading sessions. And as we've been discussing in our recent YouTube videos as well as our live stream, as long as we maintain in this uptrend in positive gamma exposure territory, we're going to continue to look for long biased plays with hedges to cover our downside exposure. So that continues to be the setup that we're playing, and I really encourage you guys, if you want a little glimpse into real-time gamma exposure setups, as well as some of the ideas that we're looking at each trading session, you can join our daily live stream. I'll put a link in the description below. Be sure to check that out when you get a chance.
Thanks, Anthony. As you know, I've been watching this daily whole moving average, which has been above the price for the last 3 days. And I wanted to see what would happen once we retested that line. It's not incredibly surprising to see the initial test reject, but I'm also not sold on this move up being over yet. Now, I've got the NASDAQ pulled up, QQQ to be specific, and you can see this yellow line, which is the whole we tested above it, rejected, painted an indecision candle here, and we have big GEX at 490 and also at 500. So we're in the red box, which is our upper dealer cluster zone. And, this is an area where we could expect to see consolidation or potentially a reversal. But I wanted to look at IWM as well. Not every data point seems to agree today. We have IWM, which closed narrowly above the whole moving average, which actually is a little bit more of a bullish divergence from the other indices. Now, we still don't see a lot of GEX above the 200 level. But we do have 210 up here at the upper dealer cluster zone, and that could potentially be an upside target. I wouldn't expect the NASDAQ and the S&P to go down while IWM has a 5% up move. I just don't think that's very likely at all. So my guess is one of these is wrong, and we're not sure yet if we're going to reverse lower tomorrow. And in this case, IWM would head toward 195 and then potentially 190, or maybe we'll push higher again and see QQQ and SPX head toward their upper targets that we were looking at earlier. So it's just something that we'll keep an eye on. So the VIX, also uncertain right here. We did have really high volume. I mean, this was over 300,000 contracts at the 35 strike, and it looks like the GEX at that area grew relative to prior days. And we have a lot of GEX at higher strikes with the VIX, and we're right on the whole moving average. We tested that line today within a few pennies, and it's held. But at the same time, I could look at the 4-hour VIX chart, and it looks like we're below the whole moving average with 20, as a target, as long as we're below that line. So the smaller time frames I put less weight toward than the larger time frames. So I would be less surprised by the whole being regained on the 4-hour chart than the whole being lost on the daily chart, for instance.
Thanks, Sean. Next, let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla trading at 284.82, up 3.11% today. Tesla's been in this consolidation range right above the zero gamma exposure and right above the 50-period EMA, sitting at 277.87. For the past couple of weeks, we've highlighted the gamma exposure at the 300 strike for Tesla. This appears to be the next target that market participants are focused on, and we're not that far away from it, sitting at 284. About a week ago, we actually posted a trade that we were taking in one of our larger portfolios. This was initiating a wheel strategy on Tesla by selling 5 of the May 16th 285 puts at $15.25. This was back on May 1st, and this trade has the potential to collect up to $7,625 in premium. So currently we're sitting just above $2,400 in profit on this position. Of course, that's basically with the price of Tesla going nowhere over this past week. So we still think the 300 target is in range. That's our ultimate goal. I don't know if we're going to get assigned the shares or not, as we're sitting right at the money currently. But either way, if we do get assigned the shares, we're going to start selling calls against that position. If price moves up into that 300 strike, we'll collect more of that potential $7,600 premium. Again, this is in one of our larger portfolios. We do have hedges in place in the portfolio in general, which, by the way, if you want to follow along with all the moves we're making in our portfolios, you can sign up and become a member. I'll put a link in the description below for you guys to check that out.
Thanks, Anthony. Let's take a look at Johnson & Johnson. The ticker is J&J. It closed 1 penny above the whole moving average today, but bigger picture than that, it's been consolidating basically sideways, and most of the GEX we see is at higher prices. Now, I know the biggest GEX cluster at 160, which also saw high volume today, that's not that far away. I mean, we're talking $4.50 a share, but we do see enough GEX at 165 and even 170 to warrant a view that it's possible we reach some of these higher strikes. And with Johnson & Johnson being a little bit more of a defensive stock, they don't even necessarily always move in the same direction as other pharmaceutical companies, I've noticed. So this is one to keep on the radar, and there's potentially several strategies that could be used to profit from the stock, either not moving a lot, or, if you wanted to take the bet that it moves toward these higher strikes, obviously, that's possible as well.
Thanks, Sean. Next, let's take a look at Palantir. Palantir up big again today, 7.85%, closing at 119.15. So we have a little double top going on here with the dip after earnings, but the pop back up. Gamma exposure still strong between 120 and 135. That's something we've been watching now for the past couple of weeks. And as you can see, big volume continuing to come in between 120 and 125. So still a lot of interest in Palantir despite the volatility. Market participants are taking these opportunities to buy dips. We're still in positive gamma exposure territory, both in Palantir and in the market in general. And so we're seeing market participants continue to take advantage of that in the options market. From a trading standpoint, we were looking for an entry a little bit closer to the 0 gamma exposure level, as well as the 50-day EMA, both of those sitting at 100 and 98.10 respectively. We got down to around the 105 level on this dip a couple of days ago, not quite making it to the levels that we wanted to see for an entry point. However, still a really nice bounce over the last couple of trading sessions. We're going to hold off on entering at these levels unless we see some sort of consolidation or another pullback up below the 110 level. That would give the moving average a little bit of time to catch up, as well as see more market participants coming in at some of these higher strikes here. So that's something we'll be watching for in addition to our geek portfolio. And if you guys are interested in getting access to our gamma exposure dashboard, our algorithmic trading strategies, as well as our vibrant community Discord, head on over to geeksoffinance.com. You can sign up and become a member. Members get access to all the tools and features on our site, as well as access the premium channels in our Discord community. You can see all the trades we're making in real time, as well as discuss trade setups and strategies with all the great traders in our community. Something you definitely don't want to miss. It's a great resource. I'll put a link in the description below for you guys to check that out. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.